Hamza checked the fuel gauge one more time and grinned at the others crammed into the old jeep. "Last chance to back out," he said. "After this, no phone signal, no shops, no soft beds. Just us and the mountains." "And ghost stories," Bilal laughed from the back seat, nudging Daniel, who was already filming the winding road on his phone. In the back, the 4 girls, Manua, Ariba, Zoya, and Sana, were singing along badly to a song on the radio, laughing every time someone forgot the lyrics. It had been Manua's idea, actually, this whole trip. After a brutal semester of exams, she had insisted they all needed one night under real stars, far from the city's noise. Of the 8 of them, she was the one everyone secretly agreed lit up a room without trying, calm, kind, and so striking that strangers sometimes simply stopped talking mid-sentence when she walked past. She never seemed to notice it herself. By late afternoon they reached a small village called Neelgar, the last stop before the trail into the forest. An old chowkidar near the tea stall watched them unload their bags with an expression that wasn't quite a smile. "You're going into Kali Van?" he asked, using the local name, the Black Forest. "Just for one night," Osman said cheerfully. "Camping. We'll be back by noon tomorrow." The old man didn't return the smile. No one camps there anymore. Not for 40 years. He glanced at the girls, his eyes lingering a moment too long on Manua before he looked away, almost embarrassed. There is something in that forest. Old. Patient. It does not bother most travelers. But it has a particular weakness. He tapped his temple. Beauty. The kind that doesn't come twice in a generation. If you camp there tonight, keep your fire alive until the sun rises. Never let it die, not for a moment. Stay together, always. And if anything calls a name in the dark, 3 times, never answer on the 3rd. The boys exchanged amused glances. Sana giggled. "Sounds like a movie plot." The old man only shrugged and turned back to his tea, muttering something about young people and their confidence. They should have listened more carefully. They didn't. The trail-in was beautiful in a way that made the warning feel almost silly. Tall pines leaning into each other overhead, golden light slicing through in long blades, the air sweet with sap and wildflowers. After 2 hours of climbing, they found a wide clearing beside an ancient, gnarled tree whose roots had cracked through the earth like knuckles. It was the perfect campsite. Flat ground, a view of the valley, firewood scattered everywhere as if waiting for them. They pitched their tents, built a fire that crackled cheerfully against the gathering dusk, and for a while it was everything the trip was supposed to be. Daniel told an exaggerated story about getting lost on a school trip that had everyone in tears of laughter. Zoya braided Sana's hair while humming. Bilal tried, and failed, to cook rice properly over the open flame. Manua sat closest to the fire, knees pulled up, watching the sparks rise into the darkening sky with the kind of quiet contentment that made Hamza glance at her more than he probably should have. It was Ariba who noticed it first. How quiet the forest had become. No crickets, no owls, not even wind in the branches. Just stillness, thick and total, as though the trees themselves were holding their breath. "Is it just me?" she said slowly, "or did everything just stop?" No one answered right away. The fire popped once, loudly, and Sana jumped. A cold draft slid through the clearing, smelling faintly of burnt sandalwood, though none of them had lit any. Zoya's scarf, which had been draped over her shoulder a moment ago, was suddenly gone. They found it 20 minutes later, wrapped with strange precision around a low branch of the old tree, as if someone had tied it there deliberately, gently, almost lovingly. "Probably the wind," Osman said, though his voice had lost its earlier confidence. Around midnight, he got up to investigate a sound near the tree line, a soft, dragging noise, like something heavy moving through underbrush. He came back pale and silent, refusing to look anyone in the eye for a full minute. "There's something out there," he finally said. "Tall. Taller than the trees. I only saw it for a second, eyes like coals, just watching. Then it was gone." Nobody laughed this time. They huddled closer to the fire, feeding it more wood than necessary. And that was when Manua heard it for the first time. A voice, low and impossibly gentle, threading through the silence like smoke. Manua. She turned, certain it had come from just behind her, but there was nothing there except darkness pressing against the firelight. She told herself it was a trick of exhaustion. She didn't mention it to the others. Not yet. The voice came again 10 minutes later, closer this time, almost a caress. Manua. She gripped Ariba's hand without realizing it. What's wrong? Ariba whispered. Someone's calling my name. No one's calling anything. We're all right here. But they weren't all right there, not entirely. Daniel tried to check the trail they'd hiked in on, the one that should have led straight down to the valley lights. It was gone. Not overgrown, not hidden, simply absent, as though the forest had quietly folded it away the moment they stopped looking at it. The compass on Bilal's phone spun in slow, useless circles. We're not lost, Hamza said, more to convince himself than anyone. We just need to wait for daylight. The fire, untouched by wind, suddenly bent sideways as if pushed by an enormous, invisible hand. And then the voice came a third time, no longer a whisper but a deep, resonant tone that seemed to rise out of the ground itself. Manua. Every one of them froze. The old man's warning surfaced in Hamza's mind with sudden, sickening clarity. Never answer on the third. From beyond the firelight, the darkness itself seemed to thicken and rise, gathering into a shape taller than the ancient tree. A towering silhouette of smoke and shadow, its outline shifting like heat above flame, two eyes glowing deep amber within it, fixed entirely on Manua. Do not be afraid, the shape said, and its voice was almost beautiful, rich and old as the mountains themselves. I am called Sada by those who still remember the old names. I have walked this forest since before your grandfather's grandfathers were born, and in all that long, patient time, I have never once asked for a companion. The amber eyes did not blink. Until tonight. Sana screamed and scrambled backward. Zoya grabbed her, both of them retreating until the fire was at their backs. The boys instinctively closed ranks in front of the girls, though every one of them was shaking. You will leave her alone, Hamza said, his voice cracking despite his effort to sound brave. The Sada's massive form tilted, almost amused. She does not belong to you, boy. I have watched 100 years pass like seasons. I have seen beauty come and go through this forest's edges. Fleeting, forgettable. I have not spoken in decades. The amber eyes softened, fixed on Manua with something disturbingly close to tenderness. But you, Manua, your kindness reaches even into the dark places where I dwell. Come with me. I will give you a crown that does not tarnish, a kingdom untouched by time, a love older than your entire world. You need never fear, nor age, nor be forgotten. Manua couldn't speak. Her whole body had gone cold, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. She's not going anywhere, Daniel shouted. Except it wasn't quite Daniel's voice. From somewhere behind them, near the tree line, came his exact tone, calling out in apparent panic. Ariba, help me, I'm stuck out here. Ariba spun toward the sound, ready to run for him, but Hamza caught her arm. Look, he said sharply, pointing. Daniel was still sitting right beside the fire, his face white with fear, his mouth shut. The voice calling from the dark wasn't his at all. It was a copy. A law. It's trying to split us up, Hamza said. Don't move. Nobody moves from this fire. The Sada's form rippled, displeased at being seen through so quickly. The flames suddenly roared higher, then guttered low, then roared again, as if the fire itself were caught in a struggle. Wind tore through the clearing from every direction at once, flattening the tents, scattering embers like dying stars. Stay together. Bilal yelled over the howling air. He said, the old man said, never let the fire die. They threw every scrap of wood they had into the flames. Usman, hands trembling, pulled a small pocket knife from his bag. Plain steel, nothing special, but iron all the same, and held it out toward the shadow without quite knowing why it felt right to do so. Zoya, sobbing, began reciting Ayatul Kursi under her breath, the verse her grandmother had taught her for exactly this kind of night. One by one the others joined her, voices shaking but growing steadier as they spoke together, the old words rising over the howling wind like a wall being built in real time. The Sada recoiled, his massive shape flickering at the edges, the amber eyes narrowing with something between fury and grief. "You would deny me this one small mercy," he said, and for the first time his voice didn't sound ancient or powerful, it sounded almost lonely. "After everything I offer her. She's not a mercy for you to take," Hamza said, stepping fully into the firelight between Manua and the shadow, his voice no longer shaking. "She's already loved. By all of us. That has to be worth more than a crown that's never once made anyone happy in 100 years." For a long, terrible moment, nothing happened. The wind held its breath. The fire steadied. Then, faint and far below in the valley, a sound drifted up through the trees. The first call to dawn prayer, thin and distant but unmistakable, carried on air that was, ever so slightly, beginning to grey with the coming sunrise. The Sada's enormous form shuddered as though struck. The amber eyes turned one last time to Manua, and his voice, when it came, was barely more than the wind itself. "Keep your fire, then, and your love, and your fleeting little lives." A pause, almost gentle. "But forests are patient, Manua. I will not forget your kindness. One night, when you are very old and the fire has long gone out, listen for your name again." The shadow dissolved into mist, the mist into nothing, and the forest exhaled, birds returning to song all at once, as if a held breath had finally been released. None of them moved until the sky had fully lightened. When they finally dared to look, the trail down to the valley had reappeared exactly where it should have been all along, the morning sun cutting gold through branches that, in daylight, looked perfectly ordinary. They packed in near silence, too exhausted and shaken for jokes. The old chowkidar was waiting by the tea stall when they walked back into Nilgarh, and he studied each of their faces carefully before nodding once, as if confirming something to himself. "You came back together," he said. "That's more than most." Life slowly returned to normal after that. Classes, exams, the small noise of ordinary days swallowing the memory the way ordinary days always do. Manua rarely spoke of that night, and the others respected it, though sometimes at gatherings someone would catch her staring a little too long into a candle flame, lost in thought. Only once, months later, on a quiet night with her window cracked open for the breeze, did she hear it again. Faint, distant, almost tender, carried on wind that smelled, just for a second, of burnt sandalwood. Her name. Once. She didn't answer. But she didn't close the window either.